The rust-colored dust of Mars swirled around Zara Kim's boots as she adjusted the scanning equipment strapped to her back. At 17, she had already earned a reputation as the most skilled tech specialist among the younger generation. Of Mars Colony Beta 7, her black hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her modified atmospheric suit bore the patches of a dozen unofficial expeditions into the Martian wilderness. "Are you sure the readings are coming from this sector?" Marcus Chen called out through the comm system, his voice slightly distorted by the thin Martian atmosphere. The 16-year-old engineer wiped condensation from his helmet visor as he struggled to keep pace with his friends across the uneven terrain of the Valles Marineris Canyon system. "Trust the equipment, Marcus," Zara replied, her eyes fixed on the holographic display projected from her wrist scanner. "The electromagnetic signatures are definitely artificial. Something big is buried about 2 kilometers ahead." Riley Santos laughed as she bounded effortlessly across a series of rocky outcroppings, her athletic build perfectly suited to Mars' lower gravity. At 18, she was the oldest of their group and the unofficial leader of their adventures beyond the colonies. Safe perimeter. Maybe it's an ancient Martian temple filled with treasure. She joked, her Brazilian accent adding warmth to the sterile atmosphere of their suits. Or maybe it's a crashed military transport that's going to get us arrested for trespassing in a restricted zone, Kai Okafor replied with his characteristic caution. The 17-year-old's logical mind was always calculating risks and consequences, though it rarely stopped him from following his friends into dangerous situations. His British accent carried a note of worry as he consulted his own navigation equipment. "We're definitely in uncharted territory now." The 4 teenagers had grown up together in Mars Colony Beta 7, one of humanity's most successful off-world settlements, established in 2140. The colony now housed over 50,000 people in a series of interconnected biodomes and underground facilities. For most residents, life was comfortable but predictable. For Zara, Marcus, Riley, and Kai, that predictability was suffocating. They had been exploring the canyon systems for months, using a combination of officially borrowed and unofficially acquired equipment to map areas that the colonial survey teams hadn't yet reached. Their adventures had led them to discover several interesting geological formations and even some fossilized evidence of ancient microbial life. But nothing had prepared them for what they were about to find. As they crested a ridge overlooking a deep canyon branch, Zara's scanner erupted in a cascade of alerts and warnings. The electromagnetic readings were so strong that the device actually overloaded and shut down for several seconds before rebooting with reduced sensitivity settings. "Holy Mars," Riley whispered, stopping so abruptly that Kai nearly collided with her from behind below them, partially buried in millennia of accumulated dust and debris, lay the unmistakable outline of a massive spacecraft. It was clearly of human design, with the angular utilitarian aesthetic that characterized Earth's early interstellar exploration vessels. But the ship was enormous, easily 3 times larger than the colony transport that had brought their families to Mars decades earlier. "That's not on any of the colonial survey maps," Marcus said, already pulling out his own scanning equipment. "A ship that size should have been detected by orbital satellites. Unless someone wanted it to stay hidden," Kai observed, his analytical mind already working through the implications. "The way it's positioned, it would be invisible to most overhead scans. The canyon walls create a natural sensor shadow." Zara had managed to restart her scanner and was now getting detailed readings of the vessel below. "The hull appears to be mostly intact," she reported. I'm detecting active power signatures from multiple systems. This thing isn't just a wreck. Parts of it are still operational. Riley was already planning their descent into the canyon. There's a path down about 50 meters to the west. We could reach the entry points within an hour. We don't know what kind of security systems might still be active, Kai warned. This could be a military vessel with automated defenses. Only one way to find out, Zara said, her natural curiosity overriding her usual caution. She began making her way toward the path Riley had identified. Besides, if it's been here as long as it appears, any defensive systems would have powered down years ago. The descent into the canyon was treacherous, but manageable. Mars' lower gravity made it easier to navigate the steep rocky slopes, though they had to be careful not to build up too much momentum and lose control. By the time they reached the canyon floor, all 4 teenagers were breathing heavily, their suit recyclers working overtime to process the increased oxygen demand. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. It stretched for nearly a kilometer. From bow to stern, its hull scarred by atmospheric entry and decades of exposure to Martian dust storms. What had appeared to be simple geometric shapes from above revealed themselves to be sophisticated engineering solutions, with retractable sensor arrays, communication dishes, and defensive turret housings integrated seamlessly into the overall design. "Look at the registration markings," Marcus said, pointing to faded lettering near what appeared to be the main airlock, UES Prometheus. "That's a United Earth Space prefix from the 2130s. The Prometheus." Kai's voice carried a note of recognition. "I remember reading about that ship in colonial history class. It was one of the first deep space exploration vessels launched after the development of faster-than-light drive technology. What happened to it?" Riley asked as she examined the external airlock controls. "It just disappeared," Kai replied. The official reports said it was lost during a survey mission in an uncharted system. No distress signal, no wreckage ever found. The incident led to major changes in deep space exploration protocols. Zara had connected her scanner to the airlock's external control panel and was attempting to interface with the ship's computer systems. "Well, it wasn't lost in deep space," she said. "It was lost right here on Mars. And from what I can tell, whoever brought it here wanted to make sure it stayed lost." The airlock responded to her commands with surprising ease, cycling through its safety protocols before opening with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. Emergency lighting flickered on inside the ship, revealing a corridor that stretched deeper into the vessel. "Artificial atmosphere is stable," Marcus reported, checking his environmental readings. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix is actually better than what we breathe in the colony. Life support systems are definitely still operational." They entered the ship cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The interior was remarkably well preserved, with minimal dust accumulation and no signs of the deterioration they would have expected from decades of abandonment. It was as if the crew had simply vanished, leaving everything exactly as it had been during normal operations. The ship's layout was logical and efficient, with color-coded directional markers leading to different sections. They followed the main corridor toward what appeared to be the command center, passing crew quarters, recreational facilities, and laboratories that looked ready for immediate use. "This is incredible," Riley breathed as they entered the bridge. Banks of displays and control consoles surrounded a central command chair, while large viewports offered a view of the canyon walls outside. Many of the displays were still active, showing system status reports and navigational data. Zara immediately began interfacing with the main computer terminal. "The ship's computer is still fully operational," she reported. "All primary systems are in standby mode, ready to be brought online. It's like they parked it here temporarily and just never came back." But why would they abandon a ship this advanced? Marcus wondered aloud as he examined the engineering displays. "The technology here is decades ahead of anything I've seen in the colonial fleet." Kai had found the ship's communication station and was studying the array of transmission equipment. "Maybe they didn't abandon it voluntarily," he said. "Look at this. There are multiple distress beacons that are still active. They've been broadcasting continuously for over 20 years. Broadcasting to who?" Riley asked, joining him at the communications panel. "That's what worries me," Kai replied. "These signals are going out on frequencies I don't recognize. They're not using standard Earth or colonial communication protocols." Zara looked up from the main computer terminal, her expression troubled. "I'm finding references to something called Project Deep Contact in the ship's logs. Most of the files are encrypted, but from what I can access, it looks like the Prometheus wasn't just exploring empty space." "First contact mission," Marcus suggested. "More than that," Zara said, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. As she tried to break through the encryption, "It looks like they actually found something, or something found them." As if responding to her words, one of the communication displays suddenly activated, showing an incoming transmission alert. The 4 teenagers gathered around the screen as alien symbols scrolled across the display, accompanied by a series of tones that their universal translators couldn't interpret. "Is that a response to the distress beacons?" Riley asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's possible," Kai replied, his analytical mind working through the implications. "If the ship has been broadcasting for 20 years, and someone or something has finally decided to respond, ... The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving them staring at a blank screen. For a long moment, none of them spoke, the weight of their discovery settling over them like the thin Martian atmosphere. "We need to shut down those beacons," Zara said finally. "If someone is responding to them, we don't want to leave them here." "Too late for that," Marcus pointed out. "If they've been broadcasting for 20 years and just got a response, whoever sent that signal already knows where this ship is." Riley moved to one of the viewports and stared out at the canyon walls, her mind racing with possibilities. "Maybe we should report this to colonial security. This is way beyond anything we can handle." "And get arrested for unauthorized exploration," Kai reminded her. "We're supposed to be in the educational dome right now, not playing around with alien technology. In a restricted zone. Then what do you suggest we do?" Riley asked. Zara saved the partially decrypted files to her personal storage device and began shutting down the systems she had accessed. "We keep this to ourselves for now," she said. "We learn everything we can about this ship and what happened to its crew, and we figure out how to deal with whoever just responded to those distress signals." "You want to turn this into our secret base?" Marcus asked, though his tone suggested he was already warming to the idea. "Why not?" Zara replied. "It's got better facilities than anything in the colony. It's completely hidden, and apparently it's been abandoned for decades. Plus, if there really is some kind of alien threat involved, we might be the only ones who can figure out how to deal with it." Kai shook his head, though he was already mentally cataloguing the ship's capabilities and potential uses. "This is insane. We're talking about claiming a lost military vessel that might be the target of hostile alien forces." "Exactly," Riley said, with a grin that was visible even through her helmet visor. When are we ever going to get another chance like this? Over the following weeks, the four friends established a routine that allowed them to spend significant time aboard the Prometheus without arousing suspicion. They told their families and instructors that they were working on an independent study project about Martian geology, which wasn't entirely untrue given the amount of time they spent traversing the canyon system to reach their secret base. They divided the ship into sections and began a systematic exploration and renovation of the entire vessel. Marcus focused on the engineering systems, learning to operate the ship's advanced propulsion and life support systems. Riley took charge of the security and defensive systems, fascinated by the weapon technologies that were far beyond anything in the colonial arsenal. Kai concentrated on the communication and navigation systems, trying to understand the ship's original mission and the nature of the signals it was receiving. Zara worked on breaking the encryption of the ship's main computer files, determined to uncover the truth about Project Deep Contact. The ship became their sanctuary, a place where they could escape the structured routine of colonial life and explore possibilities that their parents and teachers could never imagine. They brought personal items from their quarters, creating comfortable living spaces in some of the crew cabins. They learned to operate the ship's fabrication systems, creating tools and modifications that improved their ability to explore and understand the vessel. But as the days passed, the alien transmissions became more frequent and more complex. What had started as simple acknowledgement signals evolved into detailed mathematical sequences and eventually into something that resembled actual communication attempts. Kai's analysis suggested that whoever was sending the signals was trying to establish a dialogue, but the content remained largely incomprehensible. It was during their third week aboard the ship that Zara finally succeeded in breaking through the main computer's encryption. What she found in the classified files of Project Deep Contact changed everything they thought they knew about their discovery. The Prometheus had indeed been on a first contact mission, but not the kind of peaceful exploration that history classes taught about early interstellar missions. According to the classified logs, Earth's deep space monitoring systems had detected signs of an advanced alien civilization in a nearby star system. Instead of sending a diplomatic mission, military leaders had decided to send the Prometheus on a covert intelligence gathering operation. The ship had successfully infiltrated the alien system and collected extensive data about their technology and capabilities. But during the extraction phase of the mission, they had been detected and pursued by alien vessels far more advanced than anything in Earth's fleet. The Prometheus had barely escaped, but not before the aliens had learned about Earth's location and capabilities. Realizing that they had potentially doomed humanity by revealing Earth's existence to a hostile alien civilization, the crew of the Prometheus had made a desperate decision. Rather than return to Earth and risk leading their pursuers to humanity's homeworld, they had set course for Mars and hidden their ship in the deepest canyon they could find. The distress beacons weren't calling for rescue, they were serving as a decoy, broadcasting Earth's location as being on Mars instead of its actual position. The crew had sacrificed themselves to protect humanity, knowing that their deception would only work as long as the ship remained hidden and operational. For 20 years, their sacrifice had worked. But now, the aliens were finally responding to the signals, and they were coming to investigate. They're not just responding to the beacons, Zara explained to her friends as they gathered in the ship's briefing room. According to these logs, they're conducting a systematic search of this entire system. The transmissions we've been receiving aren't attempts at communication. They're scanning protocols. They're trying to determine if this is really Earth. How long do we have? Riley asked, her usual confidence replaced by genuine concern. The logs suggest their technology is significantly more advanced than ours, Zara replied. But the distance between star systems means their investigation fleet won't arrive for at least several months, maybe longer. Long enough for us to figure out how to stop them, Marcus asked, or long enough for us to warn the colony and get everyone evacuated. Kai suggested. Zara looked around at her three best friends, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. Or long enough for us to figure out how to use this ship to protect Mars, and by Earth time to prepare for what's coming. The weight of their discovery settled over them like the thin Martian atmosphere. They were no longer just for teenagers exploring an abandoned spaceship. They had become the guardians of a secret that could determine the fate of human civilization. And somewhere in the depths of space, an alien force was already beginning its journey toward Mars, drawn by signals that had been broadcasting humanity's location for over 20 years. The adventure they had thought they were beginning was actually the continuation of a story that had started decades earlier, and they were about to discover that being human meant never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds might seem. The consequences. 3 months had passed since the 4 teenagers discovered the truth about the Prometheus, and Mars Colony Beta 7 continued its daily routine, completely unaware of the approaching danger. Zara Kim stood in the ship's upgraded command center, watching as multiple displays showed the results of their modifications and improvements. What had once been an abandoned vessel was now a fully operational warship, thanks to months of dedicated work and teenage ingenuity. Orbital sensors are detecting movement in the outer system, Kai Okafor reported from his position at the communication station. His voice carried the calm professionalism that had developed over weeks of monitoring alien transmissions. 3 contacts, moving in formation toward Mars orbit. Marcus Chen looked up from the engineering console where he had been fine-tuning the ship's power distribution systems. At 16, he had become an expert on technology that most adult engineers would need years to understand. Main weapons are fully charged, he reported. Shield generators are operating at 110% of rated capacity. Riley Santos finished her inspection of the ship's defensive systems and joined her friends on the bridge. Her athletic build had proven perfectly suited to the physical demands of preparing the ship for combat, and her natural leadership abilities had helped coordinate their efforts over the past months. All external weapon turrets are operational and synchronized with the main targeting computer, she announced. The 4 friends had spent every available moment aboard the Prometheus, transforming it from a hidden relic into humanity's secret defender. They had studied the ship's systems with an intensity that amazed even themselves, driven by the knowledge that they might be Mars Colony's only hope against the approaching alien force. They had also made the difficult decision to maintain their secret, knowing that revealing the ship's existence would likely result in its confiscation by colonial authorities, who might not understand the full scope of the threat. Instead, they had used their access to the colony's educational systems to research everything they could about military tactics, alien psychology, and advanced weapons technology. Incoming transmission, Kai announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. It's using the same communication protocols as the previous messages, but the signal strength suggests they're much closer than before. The main display activated, showing a complex series of mathematical sequences and geometric patterns. But this time, something was different. The patterns were more organized, more deliberate, and Zara's enhanced translation programs were able to extract meaning from some of the sequences. "They're demanding proof," Zara said, her voice tight with concentration as she analyzed the transmission. "They want confirmation that this is actually Earth, not just another decoy location." "What kind of proof?" Riley asked. "Biological samples, technological specifications, evidence of human civilization," Zara replied. "They're giving us 72 hours to provide verification, or they'll assume this is another false location and continue their search." Marcus looked up from his console, his expression troubled. "If they continue their search, they'll eventually find the real Earth. Not if we convince them this is the real Earth and then make sure they don't survive to report back to their home system," Riley said, her voice carrying a hard edge that hadn't been there 3 months earlier. Kai shook his head. "We don't know how many ships they have, or what their full capabilities are. Even if we can defeat this scout force, there might be others. Then we make sure they believe Mars is Earth, and we give them a reason to never come back," Zara said, her mind already working through the implications. "We show them that humanity is too dangerous to threaten." The next day brought an unexpected complication. Colonial security forces had detected the alien ships and were mobilizing every available vessel to investigate. Commander Sarah Martinez, the colony's military leader, had declared a system-wide alert and was coordinating with Earth Defense Command to develop a response strategy. From their hidden position in the canyon, the 4 teenagers watched as colonial patrol ships launched from the orbital stations, their small crews undoubtedly terrified but determined to protect their home. The sight filled them with pride in humanity's courage, but also with the knowledge that the colonial fleet was hopelessly outmatched by alien technology. "We have to help them," Riley said, watching the tactical displays that showed the colonial ships moving into defensive positions around Mars. "If we reveal ourselves now, we'll lose our advantage," Kai pointed out. "The aliens don't know we have access to advanced technology. Surprise might be our only edge. But we can't just watch our friends and families get slaughtered," Marcus argued. Zara had been studying the alien transmission patterns and the colonial fleet movements, and an idea was beginning to form in her mind. "What if we don't have to choose?" she said slowly. "What if we can help the colonial fleet without revealing our capabilities?" She turned to face her friends, her expression intense with the possibility she was envisioning. "The Prometheus has stealth capabilities that are decades ahead of anything the colonials have. We could position ourselves to provide tactical intelligence, maybe even direct interference, without the aliens realizing we're there." "Invisible backup," Riley said, nodding as she understood the plan. "We let the colonial fleet engage the aliens openly while we provide covert support." "It's risky," Kai warned. "If they detect us, we lose the element of surprise completely. And if we do nothing, they'll destroy the colonial fleet and then demand proof that Mars is Earth," Zara countered. "At least this way, we're fighting back." The decision was made. Over the next 18 hours, they prepared the Prometheus for its first combat mission in over 20 years. Marcus optimized the ship's stealth systems and weapon targeting computers. Riley programmed defensive scenarios and escape routes. Kai established encrypted communication links that would allow them to coordinate with colonial forces without revealing their presence. And Zara worked on developing tactics that would maximize their impact while minimizing their exposure. When the alien ships finally entered Mars orbit, they were met by a colonial defense fleet of 12 vessels, a mix of patrol cruisers, converted cargo haulers, and 2 military escorts that had been visiting from Earth, against 3 alien warships that were each larger and more advanced than anything in the human fleet. It should have been a massacre. Instead, it became humanity's first victory against alien aggression. The battle began when the lead alien vessel transmitted an ultimatum demanding immediate surrender and the transfer of all biological and technological samples. Commander Martinez's response was a precisely targeted missile barrage that caught the aliens completely off guard. What followed was a confused and chaotic engagement that lasted for nearly 4 hours. The colonial ships, despite being outgunned, fought with a ferocity and unpredictability that seemed to confuse the alien tactical systems. Ships that should have been destroyed by the first alien salvo somehow survived and continued fighting. Colonial weapons that should have been ineffective against alien shields somehow found their targets and caused significant damage. Asterisk. Unknown to anyone except for teenagers hidden in a Martian canyon, the Prometheus was moving through the battle like a ghost, its advanced stealth systems keeping it invisible while its weapons provided precisely timed support to the colonial fleet. When alien ships targeted colonial vessels, mysterious system failures would cause their weapons to misfire. When colonial ships fired their weapons, targeting data from the Prometheus ensured maximum effectiveness. The turning point came when the alien flagship attempted to disengage and retreat to a safe distance where it could call for reinforcements. The Prometheus, still invisible, positioned itself directly in the retreat path and fired its main cannon at point-blank range. The massive energy beam tore through the alien ship's hull, causing a cascading system failure that left it dead in space. Seeing their flagship disabled, the remaining alien vessels attempted to flee the system, but they had underestimated human determination and ingenuity. The colonial ships, coordinated by tactical data that seemed to come from nowhere, managed to pursue and destroy both remaining alien vessels before they could escape Mars orbit. In the aftermath of the battle, as colonial ships began rescue operations and damage assessments, the 4 teenagers sat in the command center of the Prometheus, hardly able to believe what they had accomplished. "We actually did it," Marcus said, staring at the tactical displays that showed the wreckage of the alien fleet. "We beat them. We helped beat them," Zara corrected. "The colonial fleet did most of the fighting. We just gave them a little invisible assistance." "More than a little," Riley pointed out. "Without our targeting data and defensive interference, half those colonial ships would have been destroyed in the first 10 minutes. Kai was monitoring the communication channels, listening to the reports from the colonial fleet. "Commander Martinez is calling it the miracle of Mars," he reported. "She's saying that human courage and innovation overcame impossible odds." "She's right," Zara said, "just not in the way she thinks." But their victory was only the beginning of a larger challenge. Analysis of the alien wreckage revealed that the 3 ships had been part of a larger fleet, and their failure to report back would eventually trigger a more comprehensive investigation. Earth would need time to prepare for the inevitable return of alien forces, and Mars would need to continue serving as a decoy to buy that time. Over the following weeks, the 4 friends worked with colonial scientists to analyze the alien technology, though they were careful to channel their contributions through official research programs to avoid revealing their direct involvement. The knowledge gained from the Prometheus and the battle wreckage led to significant advances in human technology and defensive capabilities. They also established a permanent monitoring station aboard the Prometheus, taking turns maintaining surveillance. of the outer system for signs of additional alien activity. The ship became not just their secret base, but humanity's early warning system against future threats. The experience had changed all four of them in profound ways. Zara had evolved from a curious teenager into a strategic thinker who could coordinate complex operations under pressure. Marcus had become an expert in advanced technology who could adapt alien systems for human use. Riley had developed from a natural athlete into a tactical leader who could inspire others to fight against impossible odds. And Kai had grown from a cautious analyst into a communications expert who could coordinate information flow across multiple military and civilian organizations. Most importantly, they had learned that being human meant never giving up, no matter how advanced or powerful the opposition might seem. Human ingenuity, courage, and determination could overcome any obstacle, especially when people were willing to work together and sacrifice for something greater than themselves. 6 months after the battle, as they sat in their hidden command center monitoring the peaceful skies above Mars, Zara received a coded transmission from Earth Defense Command. The message was brief but significant. Project Looking Glass approved. Deep space monitoring stations coming online. Thanks to early warning from Mars incident, Earth will be ready. Riley smiled as she read the message over Zara's shoulder. So we bought them the time they needed, and probably saved both Mars and Earth in the process. Marcus added. Kai looked up from his monitoring station, where he had been tracking civilian traffic in the inner system. The question is, what do we do now? We can't keep this secret forever. Zara considered the question carefully. They had proven that teenagers could make a difference when faced with impossible challenges. They had shown that human creativity and determination could overcome any obstacle. But they had also learned that some responsibilities were too important to carry alone. We keep watching, she said finally. We keep learning, and when the time is right, we make sure the right people know what really happened here. The signal. Keepers, Riley said softly. What? Marcus asked. That's what we are, Riley explained. We kept the signals from leading the aliens to Earth. We kept Mars safe. We kept humanity's secrets. We're the signal keepers. As if in response to her words, the communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. But this time, it wasn't from alien sources. It was a message from Earth, encoded with protocols that only the four of them would recognize. Congratulations on your success, the message read. When you're ready, there are others who would like to meet the team that saved 2 worlds. Humanity needs people like you. The universe is a dangerous place, but with young heroes like you standing guard, our species has a bright future among the stars. The message was unsigned, but its meaning was clear. Their secret was safe, their contribution was recognized, and their journey was just beginning. Looking out at the red landscape of Mars and the stars beyond, the 4 friends knew that their adventure aboard the Prometheus had been only the first chapter in a much larger story. They had proven that humans could face any challenge and emerge victorious. They had shown that age and experience were less important than courage and determination. And they had learned that sometimes the most important victories were the ones that nobody else ever knew about. The signal keepers would continue their watch, ready to protect humanity from whatever threats might emerge from the vast darkness between the stars. Because that's what humans do. They never give up, no matter what the odds might be. Asterisk.